Frank, 59, last made an appearance on American Pickers in March 2020. He then had back surgery, and the show formally fired him in 2021. He has been in discussions to return to the program 1 year after having a stroke in July 2022, the US Sun can exclusively reveal. "I don't see why he wouldn't return to the show," a close friend of Frank's said to the US Sun. "Maybe he could return to the show. He follows the most recent episodes. He'll make light of it. There must be something there to pick on. He'll inform them of it." When it came to Frank being sacked from the show, the source claimed it wasn't that big of a deal. "He came home after filming and said, 'I think I'm going to be done for a while,'" the insider alleged. "I believe he was burned out. His back operation was extensive. Whatever choice was made, it was made. Frank had a stroke and must now take the necessary action. Additionally, Mike, Robbie, and the cast carry out their duties. There is no ill will between Frank and his former co-workers," the source maintained. "People on the show, the crew, Mike and Robbie, there is no bad blood," the insider claimed. "The team stops by to see him. They remain in contact. When they are in town, they visit him. They all congregate. I'm having a nice time. They are merely friends, and their discussion is continuing as usual. That is the topic of conversation, since those guys are obsessive about picking and finding things." Frank might return to the show, but the insider was honest and said, "I don't know that he wants to." As the US Sun previously reported, Mike, 59, and Frank got back together during Memorial Day weekend for the first time in years following a startling fight. The US Sun quoted a source close to Frank as saying, "Everything between them is fine. They have been close friends for 40 years. They attended high school together and have engaged in numerous activities. They are great buddies that get along well." Since Frank's stroke, Mike has reportedly paid him a handful of visits, and the two have also called and texted one other today. Despite replacing the fan favorite on the show, the insider added that Frank and Mike's brother Robbie are even closer. Frank last made an appearance on American Pickers in an episode from March 2020. He had back surgery, leaving him with 2 rods in his spine and 185 sutures, and he left the show to heal. Frank lost 65 pounds and spent 77 days in an Iowa alcohol recovery facility during his absence from the show. During the 2021 interview with the US Sun, Frank discussed his conflict with Mike, his co-star. "My last conversation with Mike was 2 years ago," the fan favorite declared. "He was aware that my back was hurting, yet he didn't call to see how I was doing. That is the way things are. The entire show is skewed in his favor. To demonstrate how much, I can't even stoop down that low. It's all right. It's similar to having Steven Tyler as the frontman of Aerosmith. I found my place. On the show, I'm second, and he's number 1. I have no issue with that, but perhaps he does." Additionally, he acknowledged, "I believe Mike wants to replace me with his brother Robbie. I'm not sure why he's acting that way toward me." In July 2021, Mike confirmed Frank's termination over Instagram immediately after the interview. "I've known Frank for as long as I can remember. He's been like a brother to me," he wrote in the caption of a photo of the buddies. "Like all of life, the road Frank Danny, and I began in 2009, has had its highs and lows, blessings and challenges, but it has also been the most fulfilling. The encouragement you've all shown us has served as a continual reminder of the show's underlying message. Through these places, people and things, we all share a shared bond. We're here to look after each other as well as the past." As he said in his closing remarks, "I will miss Frank, just like all of you, and I pray for the very best and all good things for him on the next part of his journey." After having a stroke in July 2022, Frank was given guardianship and conservatorship the following month. According to the Quad City Times, Frank and Mike made up during an emotional reunion over Memorial Day weekend. This was not at all a conflict between Mike and Frank, the insider claimed. They weren't at odds. They needed time apart to truly appreciate one another. The friend disclosed that after 11 seasons of putting in 10-hour days, 7 days a week on the show, their friendship becomes strained. The males were tearful after their long-awaited reunion, the insider told the newspaper. Both were sobbing, the buddy reported. One of their first major performances was on David Letterman, and Mike mentioned how anxious they both were about it. "No one can replace you, Frank," Mike reminded him. Frank said to the friend, "I need to talk to Mike," and the plans were then arranged. Mike really stressed all the fun times they had before the show and during the show, the insider said in closing. Mike did state that he would like Frank to return to the program, but Frank is occupied with his health. Frank is still receiving outpatient care and continues to reside in his Iowa home. The friend stated to the U.S. Sun, "Frank keeps getting better every day. After a stroke, you can never be fully recovered, but he is fine. He is aware of what is happening. You could sit and speak with him if he were here right now. He is still the same Frank. He can walk, but because he can't walk far, he will always need a wheelchair," his pal said. Basically, motion is lost. He stopped moving. His right side was impacted by the stroke, which can affect either side. According to the insider, Frank still spends a few hours per week in outpatient therapy. Frank is a reserved individual who enjoys being totally out of the limelight. He's had a stroke, but he's definitely not incapacitated to the point where he can't do anything or do whatever he wants, the person stated. That poses no challenges for him. He simply changed his lifestyle, which caused a slowdown. He is still the same Frank. He is cheerful and has a fantastic sense of humor. He has an optimistic outlook. We frequently make jokes. He's come to terms with everything because you have to make the best of the circumstances. His mind is right, he's a happy guy, and his sense of humor is there.